Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and I share videos on the topic of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome and mind-body approaches that can be used to help those conditions. So today's video, I wanted to answer the question, should you distract yourself from symptoms? And sometimes I think this can get a little bit confusing because different people will explain their recovery using a mind-body approach in a different way, and for some people they have a very hard and fast rule of just not paying attention to symptoms and living their life, and for others they need to do things more slowly and they do need to take a bit more care and attention and make sure that they are paying attention to any underlying emotion that they mightn't be aware of. But these things can be helpful to think about in any case, regardless of what helps you. So I'm not a medical professional. This isn't medical or mental health advice. I'm just sharing things that helped me during my recovery and ideas based on a mind-body approach. And for anyone who hasn't watched my videos before, a mind-body approach basically means looking at your beliefs around symptoms and activity, and also considering if there are any emotions that you are not aware of that might be underlying symptoms. And it could be emotions that you are aware of. So it varies person to person. This is what helped me the most. And I want to share content that hopefully will help other people who are trying to follow this approach. So the first thing to consider is that symptoms may already be acting as a distraction from an emotion that you're not aware of. So if you are trying to distract yourself from symptoms, and there's many different ways that we can do this, it can mean that we are essentially just feeding into that cycle of distracting ourselves and not paying attention to something that needs to be paid attention to. So this could look like, for instance, doing a lot of researching. It could be getting fixated on some type of problem, whether that problem is a symptom, whether that problem is something else in your life, and really honing in on that and getting really sucked in to only thinking about that. So there are various things that could be a natural distraction, and then there's other things that we might actively decide to do because we don't want to pay attention to symptoms, we don't want to think about them, we don't want to feel them, because they're obviously really, really unpleasant. And for different people, those chosen distractions will be different depending on what they enjoy or what they like to do. And nowadays there are lots of distractions with TV, with social media, scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, or being able to watch a series one episode after the other. There are lots of things that we can use as distractions. So one really good habit to get into is to face what the symptom might be covering up. So is this symptom actually there because there's an emotion deeper down that maybe you need to experience or you need to feel? And what I found most helpful in terms of figuring that out was asking myself, is part of me feeling a specific emotion? And I mightn't get any idea initially. I might need to keep asking. For instance, have there been any triggers recently that may have caused stress, that may have made me feel sad, that may have made me feel regretful, that may have made me feel really angry, but in a situation where I couldn't express that anger? Because of course, in a lot of social situations, it doesn't seem appropriate to express anger. But there are lots of social situations on a day-to-day basis, and even potentially in your past, that may actually give you really good reason to feel angry, yet you have been taught from a young age that expressing anger is not something you should do in the company of others. What we're doing is just paying attention to whether there is an emotion there under this symptom. Is there something that's bothering you? Or do you have a need that you're not paying attention to? Is there something a part of you needs, like some self-compassion, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood? And that's something that you can give to yourself if you are able to think of that as part of you and see another part of you as being a caring parent that can help that other part that maybe needs something, needs some understanding, needs some reassurance, or needs just to be seen and heard and validated. Sometimes it can also be a feeling of anxiety that's deeper down, and that can be based on general feelings of not feeling safe, and maybe even just a background experience that we've got used to because maybe you've been unwell for a very long time, or because you grew up in a situation where things didn't feel safe. And you could diary, you could find some space by yourself, speak aloud to yourself about what might be going on for you. You could go for a walk if it's possible for you to do that, and just not listen to any music or have any stimulation, and really consider what feelings are you experiencing right now, and is there potentially anything deeper that's under the surface. If you're doing this on a regular basis, checking in to see if there are emotions that you want to pay attention to, if there are needs that you have that maybe you want to pay attention to, or if there's a part of you that needs to be seen and heard and listened to, then it's less likely that you will be using distraction in an unhelpful way with symptoms. And the more that you can start living your life again and engaging in the world in a meaningful way, doing things that you enjoy, spending time with people that make you feel good, this type of living would not fall into the category of distracting yourself from symptoms. So it might seem like you're distracting yourself from symptoms because you might still have symptoms, and you might be trying to live your life and enjoy yourself, and you might have symptoms in the background. But if you're spending time at some point in the day or the week to try and figure out, is there an emotion behind this? Is there anything I need to be aware of? Is there something in my inner experience that would be helpful for me to pay attention to? Then you can say that this is not distraction, and it's an important part of recovery, where you're giving yourself, your brain and your body, the message that you are safe, you're okay. And so it can be a balance to strike in terms of living your life and not paying attention to symptoms, knowing that you're okay, knowing that you're safe, and then also asking yourself, are there things I need to pay attention to underneath these symptoms? Are there emotions? Are there needs or parts of me that need to be seen and heard and understood? And scheduling that maybe into your day or into your week so that that's not something you forget to do. And as symptoms decrease, it can be harder to keep doing this. And sometimes other distractions will come up where instead of having symptoms to distract you from emotions, you might become really busy and really focused on something else, which is a new distraction for emotions. And that's certainly something that I experienced during my recovery. And it's still something that I work on, because I have a natural tendency not to pay attention to emotions or my inner experience. And sometimes it's hard to even know if there's other emotions deeper down that need to be uncovered, or things that you maybe need to deal with from the past. And this is something that you can take time to work on, and I think is a good use of your time and your energy to really get to know yourself well and understand yourself as best as possible, and any mechanisms that you might have to avoid emotions or to distract yourself from your inner experience, because this is going to help in the long run. And if you find that you're managing symptoms well, and some of these mind-body techniques are helping you with symptoms, but you're still using a lot of distraction in your day-to-day life rather than paying attention to what you really want to do in terms of work, in terms of your life, in terms of what makes you happy, then that's something to reflect on. Because going back into life after being unwell and deciding what work you want to do, or deciding what you really want to get out of life with this new perspective that you have can be a huge change, and it can bring up anxiety and other feelings around that, and can be quite hard to actually take those next steps. So it might be that you're distracting from getting back into living in the way that you really want to live. And from speaking to some friends that I have who've gone through this journey, I think this is actually really common and a really big challenge that can be underestimated, where actually when people are well enough to start to do new activities and to start to get back into life, the feelings associated with that can bring on more symptoms when you're just about to do a new activity or when you're just about to start working again, because it's a huge change and it can be difficult to face how big of a change it is and how difficult that transition is as well. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you'd like to join the Facebook group, there's a link in the description below. I've also started to use an Instagram page. So I only have about one post up so far, but it's sharing similar things to what I'll share in the Facebook group. And I'll put a link for that down below as well. If you think you'd find coaching helpful, there's a link to my website and a link to booking a free 30-minute call with me in the description. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.